RM and Suga were missing from the alleged BTS reunion that was happening. There are conversations about what BTS felt about their music, and then we have a lot of backlash happening right now over J-Hope and JK. So hey Dumplings, it's Dave Disci, let's get into it. I was very surprised to see a lot of the backlash happening with J-Hope and JK, and specifically these two fandoms, who specifically just like these two members, having arguments about what is happening recently about their music, their solo careers, and all that sort of stuff. For the first time, I think really in a long time, do I actually see what either side is upset about, and I kind of empathize with either side, but not really take a side. Every time I talk about issues that are two-sided and both sides have a reason as to why they feel a certain way, I get a lot of comments saying that I'm starting fan wars and that sort of stuff. I am hoping to have some sort of debate and conversation, and if anyone is arguing, yelling at each other, then of course those comments will not be tolerated, and I'm going to try my best to mitigate those or get rid of that. This is a place that is supposed to be peaceful, and you're allowed to have debates, and all opinions are welcome as long as they are respectful. This channel was always meant to be a place where people can come with their thoughts and talk to other people, or just hear my thoughts and what my thoughts are, because I like to share both sides of this coin when I'm talking about a story. So recently J-Hope got a publication on the Billboard magazine site, I believe. The publication talked about his career as a solo artist and a lot of the works that he's done, and also a lot of the amazing achievements that he has achieved. This really shouldn't be controversial, but was a lot more controversial than I think a lot of people thought. People were talking about how this didn't seem to be the same energy in which the general audience or the community gave to JK when he talked about his solo work, and they called him greedy and all those awful things for pursuing a solo career. Of course, I don't believe in saying those words towards these people that are working really hard and actively trying to make better music, actively trying to serve the community and do their best at what they do. They do not deserve the name calling like that. But looking into this a little bit, I was very confused why the energy was so different, and then I realized the specific way each of their solo careers started. J-Hope seemed to be talking more about excitement when starting his solo career, talking more about him feeling excited to try new things and that sort of stuff. And when JK started his solo career, he was talking more so about how he really didn't want to have a solo career because he really couldn't find the right music or the right style that he wanted to do. And he needed to be pushed by the label a little bit more to start his solo career. This right off the bat made some people in the community feel like JK was more so money hungry, was doing this more so as a cash grab rather than actually caring about the music that he was putting out. And in a time where I guess people crave authenticity, they felt like the music wasn't truly authentic to him. Now, as I said, I can see where both sides are coming from with this, but I also do want to defend JK a little bit because I don't believe he deserves to be called this. There are people who might need a push to do something for themselves, right? I don't know if this is JK, but there are people who need this. And at the end of the day, JK knows the implications of what it is to take a song that is not authentic and then try to perform it. He knows that people are going to be upset about this, and he knows that it's going to catch up to him in the future some way, somehow, because being inauthentic is always going to do that. So I don't believe he just took a song that anyone gave him just for the point of taking money, because he doesn't need any more money. And he's great, and he doesn't need more money in his life ever again, as I'm sure if he has a financial expert that is guiding his finances, he would literally be able to make that money last his entire life, the money that he's already made. And that's the thing that I really want people to understand, is none of the BTS boys ever have to work a day in their lives ever again, and they can do anything they want to do. They can afford anything that they want. They will never run out of money. I'm not here to explain finances, but if they were to invest the amount of money that they have already into the stock market and take out less money than what the interest they would make on that every year, they would probably be at somewhere like a few $1,000,000 a year just off of the interest. And their original money that they put in to invest would still be able to grow. And as I said, they would never need to work a day in their lives, and they would be able to afford life just fine. So I think these comments are coming from left field, but I can understand where they're coming from if they're not taking everything into consideration. So that's why I'm explaining this right now. The boys are very much used to the backlash recently, and there's been a little bit more backlash as the boys have been discussing what they felt about some of their old music, specifically Dynamite. I think this was really shocking to people because this ended up being one of their biggest hits ever. And it was a song that really guided people's way through the pandemic. It really brought a lot of light into a lot of people's lives, and I'm sure a lot of people were just dancing in their living room or bedroom over this song. And this whole experience that the community went through is something that none of us will ever experience again, or the universe will ever experience again. There will never be another song like that, likely, and there'll never be a situation like that. I hope not. So I'm sure in that way, that song has become very sensitive to people, right? So when there was an interview with Jin talked about how all of the boys did not like it initially and were asking for a second option. And when they heard the second or third option, they thought those songs were even worse. So they ultimately decided to go with Dynamite. I'm very curious to know why they decided to go with this song at all, if they didn't like the song and they did not really have a say in creating a new song from scratch. But apparently that's what happened. And did they not have a say in creating a song from scratch? But apparently that's what happened, and they just went with it. But this was very shocking to people because of the stuff that I mentioned earlier, and they didn't realize that the boys did not like the song. Jin talked about how there were mixed feelings about the song, but he didn't really address exactly what those mixed feelings were, and I thought that was very interesting. I do wonder what about the song that they did not like, and what were their reservations about it. When I first heard it, I thought it would have still been a complete hit, and I didn't dismiss that. And when I first heard it, I definitely knew it was just going to need to take time to grow on me, if that made sense. So I wonder what initially they did not like about it. However, it also does make a lot of sense because the boys are used to making darker songs. So if it weren't necessarily for Dynamite, they might not have been that much fans of Permission to Dance or Butter initially either. That's just my assumption. However, maybe they saw the success of Dynamite and then this was the direction that they felt that they should go in, and thus the next Butter and Permission to Dance was their favorite. I don't know. And then of course it also makes sense because this was very much an interruption to their storyline type of thing that they had that completely just abruptly stopped, and it was very different from anything they had done before. So again, I guess it makes sense, right? But rest assured, we are going to see the boys come back together and make good music again. And some people were a little bit shocked when the BTS reunion happened, sort of, and Suga and RM were not there. So if you're not aware, Jin recently had a live stream to promote his new song. The live stream was then joined by several other members, except the two that I just mentioned, where they ended up turning the live stream chat into their own little group chat where they were catching up and talking to each other. And I think people really loved this because we got to see the interactions with them again. But we also got to see that they clearly all miss each other and they want to see each other again. What I was surprised about was just the fact that they were even catching up like this. Like, I would imagine that they would have had conversations privately, but I guess maybe they didn't have a chance to. It was definitely an impromptu meeting, and it just so happened that a bunch of the members got the notification that Jin was live. So they joined and had a cute thing. This reassured everyone that the BTS reunion was indeed happening because people were able to see that they're all still so close and they all still very much love each other and take time from their busy schedule to just even join the live stream and support each other. And they stayed for quite some time. So even though they couldn't be together in person, they still made time to still be there online and show support and love, which is amazing. Our relationship like this between them is so cool and so rare, and I'm glad that they all have found each other and that they want to be a part of each other's lives again. I think this is probably one of the very few groups in history that are happy to come together and stay together, right? They have taken a break apart from each other and have come back together and have actually made plans to come back together again in the future. Of course, a lot of groups do reunions, right? But this wasn't even, like, I would say, a reunion because it wasn't even their choice to take a break. If they had it their way, they probably would have never done a solo activity, and they probably would have just kept going as BTS. And I think that is really beautiful. Even after all these years, they've been together for many years, they still want to be together. You absolutely cannot find people like this anymore, and once you have them, you should definitely hold on to them dearly. So I think we definitely have chosen the right community to be a part of and the right group to be a fan of. Let me know what you think. Make sure to check out Patreon for more videos, linked down below. Thank you to this lovely comment right here. Love you, bye.